Born on July 29, 1883, in Predapio, Italy, Mussolini was born into a family of blacksmiths and grew up in a political household, with his father being a socialist and his mother being a schoolteacher. He was the eldest of 3 children and showed a talent for writing and public speaking at a young age. Mussolini graduated from a teacher training college in 1901 and taught in several schools, including a socialist-run school, before moving on to work as a journalist. Mussolini was a committed socialist in his youth and became involved in politics, serving as the editor of several socialist newspapers. He founded Il Popolo d'Italia in 1914, which became the mouthpiece of the fascist movement. At the outbreak of World War I, Mussolini volunteered to fight and was sent to the front lines. He was decorated for bravery and suffered an injury that left him temporarily paralyzed. After the war, Mussolini returned to Italy and became involved in the fascist movement, which advocated for strong government, nationalism, and imperialism. He led the March on Rome in October 1922, in which thousands of blackshirts, the fascist paramilitary organization, marched on the Italian capital to demand that the government be handed over to the fascists. After the March on Rome, Mussolini was appointed prime minister by King Victor Emmanuel III and quickly established a dictatorship, suppressing opposition and establishing a one-party state. Mussolini implemented a number of policies aimed at strengthening the state, including the creation of the Blackshirts, a paramilitary organization that was used to suppress opposition. He also centralized the government and controlled the press, while promoting Italian nationalism and imperialism. The fascist regime under Mussolini launched a brutal invasion and colonization of Ethiopia in 1936, which resulted in significant loss of life and widespread human rights abuses. This move also damaged Italy's reputation internationally and marked the country's decline as a major world power. Mussolini established close ties with Nazi Germany and signed the Pact of Steel in 1939, which committed Italy to joining Germany in the event of war. This alliance was one of the key factors that led to Italy's entry into World War II. Italy entered World War II on the side of Germany in June 1940, with Mussolini declaring war on the Allies. The Italian military performed poorly, and by 1943, the Allies had gained the upper hand in the conflict. The Allies invaded Sicily in July 1943, which led to a collapse of support for Mussolini's regime. He was arrested by the Italian government and imprisoned, but was freed by German commandos in September 1943. After the Allies captured Rome in June 1944, Mussolini went into hiding. He was captured by Italian partisans in April 1945 and executed the same day, his body then being hung upside down in a public square in Milan. The fascist regime was responsible for numerous human rights abuses, including the execution of political opponents and the use of concentration camps. The economy of Italy suffered under Mussolini's rule, as the government spent heavily on military expansion and other ventures, while economic policies were largely ineffective. This resulted in high levels of government debt and inflation, which further damaged the country's economy. The fascist regime was known for its use of propaganda, with Mussolini portrayed as a charismatic and powerful leader who was responsible for the country's resurgence. This propaganda was used to control the population and suppress dissent, and it helped to establish a cult of personality around Mussolini. The fascist regime under Mussolini was responsible for the establishment of anti-Semitic laws in 1938, which led to widespread persecution of Jews in Italy. This included confiscation of property, forced relocation, and exclusion from various professions and institutions. After World War II, Mussolini's legacy was initially one of infamy, as many in Italy and beyond regarded him as a war criminal who was responsible for numerous atrocities and human rights abuses. This view was reinforced by the publication of accounts of the fascist regime's crimes in the aftermath of the war. In the decades since World War II, Mussolini's reputation has undergone a resurgence, with some viewing him as a strong leader who brought order and stability to Italy after a period of political and economic turmoil. This view, however, remains controversial and is widely rejected by most scholars and experts. Despite the mixed and controversial nature of his legacy, Mussolini's impact on Italian and world history cannot be ignored, as his regime played a key role in the events leading up to World War II. He was one of the key architects of the Axis powers, and his aggressive expansionist policies helped to trigger the conflict that would change the world forever. Today, Mussolini's legacy continues to be a subject of debate, with many considering him to be a symbol of fascism and authoritarianism, while others view him as a charismatic leader who brought order and stability to Italy. Regardless of one's views, it is clear that his impact on the course of 20th century history cannot be overstated.